I chose to go to Phoenix. Oh, hi.
There are kind of a lot of reasons that I wanted to go to Phoenix.
Something that interested me
is the smaller community.
I thought that the mastery grading system would be cool.
I thought that it sounded pretty cool, but I didn't want to leave all my friends.
I really liked it, and I made a lot of new friends. So I can experience like a more close-knit community where you know everyone around you.
My brother coming home every day, thinking that it's very fun all through elementary school.
the fact that we would be able to work at our own pace.
Phoenix just sounded like a good fresh start, you know, a new try.
We also have short days on Friday.
We end early on Fridays.
So I decided that I'd try it out, see how it was.
The global awareness pillar is looking at ways that affect the world or different cultures around the world.
We have a bunch of flags on the wall in the family room, and we actively change them out every semester so that the flags from kids' countries that are attending Phoenix currently can see their flag up there.
Connections class at Phoenix helps build character.
Your character is pretty much positive here because you can grow.
The Connections class here at Phoenix is a class where we talk about arguments, but we also talk about other things that have happened around the world.
I think that Phoenix does a really good job of encouraging people to bring out their creative side. Discovery days are also a big thing to encourage your creative expression.
You could write a song, do a poem, make a woodwork thing, do something out of cardboard.
One of my students did a sitar lesson last Discovery Day.
One of my Discovery days, I spent drawing a roadmap of the city of Columbus.
The intellectual discipline pillar.
Teachers help you understand stuff, but they don't give the answer to you because that wouldn't really be learning.
I think it's great to give kids chances to redo work and then let them show that they understand it in their own unique way.
You can't just get a 0 if you don't turn something in. In Mastery, you have to continue doing it until you get it right.
The Phoenix Pillar Wellness, we get options to choose for gym, how we can go outside for lunch. We also have clubs after school.
The club that I am in is called the News Club.
We have a video game sports team, esports team, that we started this year, and they won the state championship.
There's also wellness for your mind. At the end of the day, we have a special class called Extensions where we're able to go to any teacher that we need to for help.
One of our teachers here, Mr. Smith, is our wellness teacher and has a lot of character. He helps people with math, and he also has good relationships with a lot of the students here.
At Phoenix, we have such a good connection between the students and the teachers.
All the teachers here are great.
The teachers in Phoenix help you learn. If you don't understand something, they will explain it in a different way that you understand.
I'm glad that I came to Phoenix.
It's very laid back.
It's got a lot of stuff that just makes it awesome. There's a lot of openness.
Phoenix is a very positive experience.
I just think that it's an awesome way to run a school. And I'm very happy that I went. It was probably the best decision I've ever made.
My favorite parts of Worthington schools. We have a lot of options.
IED being the first class you take freshman year, one of my favorite classes at Thomas so far.
We made a lamp, I think out of metal tubing.
It's really hands-on, it's really fun.
I still have it on my desk at home. It is a staple of my desk. My favorite was probably the egg car project.
It was so fun and so engaging, and there was not a day that I didn't want to go to that class.
That first engineering class we take, IED, is super hands-on and fun and really kind of draws you in.
Working with power tools gives you confidence.
I can go home and I can use those tools.
You're able to make something with a bandsaw.
The other day we were taking apart a deck in our backyard and I was able to help with that.
I just gained so much confidence. The biggest thing about STEM is just the family. Middle schoolers go from a school of 500 kids to going to a school with 1,800 kids. It's a big difference. It's a smaller community and it's a smaller environment than the general population. Like a fish in a very big pond.
You have the same people in every class, so you really develop pretty deep relationships with not only the teachers but the students as well.
It was almost a built-in group of friends because you would see them at school and then you would see them outside of school and you would already have that relationship built, and it just made it so much easier.
Walking into a high school that was larger than any high school that I had attended or that I had walked into before. It was intimidating to me as a parent. We sat in the cafeteria where the 4 STEM teachers did a presentation, and they were a unified front.
All the teachers for the STEM program are just phenomenal.
They're really kind.
It's a great team of teachers.
They check up on you. They make sure that you're like doing your best.
I learned so much last year and this year with those teachers.
Mr. Brown and Miss Stanich and Miss Hertenstein, Miss Court and Miss Laughlin. Those are like your people.
They're always there for you.
I absolutely was a huge fan of them as educators and, frankly, of them as fellow parents.
I didn't feel like I had to sacrifice anything I wanted to take.
I think I got more from STEM.
You're older, you're actually able to take more APs.
I was able to get more in my schedule because I was done with science.
You have more room in your schedule, you're able to get into that more and actually get more than your peers.
My counselor made it work, and I ended up doing 4 years of EBA and 4 years of STEM, and I definitely wouldn't have it any other way.
I was able to go into an internship with Abbott. It makes me so thankful that I was in STEM.
I honestly feel that anyone could walk into this program and do well just because
I genuinely think anyone could.
the teachers all have your best interests in mind.
They want to help people who are also passionate about STEM.
Want to be an engineer if you don't want to be an engineer. If you just like to make stuff. If you just want to learn in a little bit of a different environment. If you want that family aspect.
There's no negative to trying it.
As long as you want to learn, you can learn.
They will work with you.
You don't have to worry about like failure because they will not let you fail.
It's just been fantastic for my kids.
Just do it.
At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Go ahead. Yeah, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Best.
Present.
Mrs. Davis.
Present.
Mrs. Hudson. Mrs. Lloyd. Mr. Wilson.
Present. Okay, at this time, I would like to welcome everybody for being here. Open meeting, a public meeting. I thank you for being here. This time, I would like to introduce the people sitting up here. On your far right over here is Kelly Davis, Board Member Kelly Davis. Next to her is Board Member Jennifer Best. Next to me here is our treasurer, TJ Cusick. And next to me on the other side here is our superintendent, Dr. Trent Bowers. Our other two board members who've almost, in fact, I don't know if they've ever missed, or very rarely have ever missed. I can't recall a time they've ever missed, are both missing for very valid health reasons. So, all right, at this time, I'd like for you to join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time we need to, or it's our board policy to approve the agenda. And we do have one amendment that I'm aware of. We will be deleting section C on page 2, the first reading of naming rights policy, because half of our board policy members are not here, and 40% of our members aren't here, and we would like to have a full and complete discussion, and there's no urgent, compelling need to, 2 weeks won't put us behind on anything. So it was my determination, or I guess it's up to the board, attending board members, but it's my suggestion that we delete that. If there's any, is there any comment or discussion on deleting that?
No. How do we have to enter it, TJ? Is it to move it to the next meeting?
Well, my understanding of Robert's rules is that my motion is as amended. We don't have to have a formal vote on amending it because it's technically the president's agenda.
Gotcha. Okay.
And obviously, if you had you can vote the amendment the agenda down if you don't like the deletion. But if you have an issue with it, so that's what we're doing and why we're doing it. That's okay. All right. And so at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as amended. Deleting section C on the second page. Any discussion or comments? Okay. Mr. Cusick, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Best.
Yes.
Mrs. Davis.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes. Okay, the agenda's been approved. So at this time, we're ready for public comments. The school board and the administrative staff definitely encourage and appreciate community interest in meetings of the Board of Education. And this section of the agenda is designed to hear the views of community members about their schools and items on the agenda. Each speaker will be asked to address the board at the visitors podium here to my left, your right, so that everybody here in the room can clearly hear the speaker's remarks. Please give your name and address and limit your comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Consistent with our board policy 9130 on public complaints, we do ask that complaints about particular employees be referred to the superintendent and not addressed during public session. We also ask everyone to remember that our district values and respects all people as they are, and that our district is very committed to creating and maintaining safe spaces for all our students and community members. And again, we want to remind you that we do value your input, and we always appreciate it when our community members remember our district's values. refraining from using harmful or offensive language, and for sharing your comments in a civil and respectful manner. And again, it is not our practice to respond to remarks during the visitor comment section of our meeting. The first speaker is who have signed up to be speakers today. As we already mentioned, we are deleting for today's meeting, saving for the meeting on the 27th, the first reading of the naming rights policy because of the absence of two of our board members. So at this time, we're going to go to superintendent's report, and this is something new on our agenda. We discussed it at the work session on February the 3rd, and it was my understanding that it was seen as something we could and can certainly try out. It is something that many school districts across the state and across the country do. That is a superintendent's report and a treasurer's report. Obviously, at no time is either of you compelled to have a report. If you have nothing to say, we just do not hear it if you have nothing to say. But generally, you have a lot to say, and I think it's really important for transparency and for our public, for everyone to hear when they do have something to report to us. So, Dr. Bowers, superintendent's report, please.
Yes, thank you. I think we will always have something to say. So, Mr. President, thank you for providing an opportunity to share some of what's going on in Worthington schools. And obviously, as a large public school district with almost 11,000 students, there's always something going on. And so I always want to remind people that we are a mission-driven organization. So the mission of our school district is to empower a community of learners who will change the world. And in Worthington, we have these 4 vision statements that help us meet that mission. So for this report, I just want to provide one update in each of these vision areas, right? So our first vision statement is that we will engage each student with diverse opportunities to maximize every student's potential. And so what I wanted to point out here is just that Worthington Schools continues to welcome multilingual students from around the world. It's kind of a did you know, but in January of this year, 2023, we are the learning community for students that are born in over 95 different countries. And we have over 1,560 students that live in homes where more than 60 different unique languages are spoken. Many of these multilingual students qualify for support in how the state of Ohio qualifies students as English learners. We often call ELL our English language learner population. And we now serve 751 students who qualify for those EL supports. And that's a net growth of 67 EL students since a year previous. So we've gained almost 70 students during that time. And if our enrollment continues to grow at the level that it has in this EL population, we expect that by the end of this school year, we'll be serving 800 students who are EL students. So 1,560 students where English is not their first language, but 800 who qualify in that language learner process. So one of the great things about public schools is that we're working to serve all students, and it's exciting growth for Worthington. The second vision statement is that we will provide a safe environment where every student can grow intellectually, emotionally, socially, and physically. As you know, February is National Heart Month, and in light of that, we want to make sure that all of our school employees are prepared to assist our students in case of a heart emergency. So during this month, we're requesting that all of our administrators, with help from their health office, professionals at the school, conduct a brief review of hands-free CPR and the AED, the defibrillator, that's at their facility. And we want to specifically make sure that everybody in that building is, again, familiar with their hands-free CPR and where do we find that defibrillator, where are the locations in each building. Our school nurses do a great job of checking those defibrillators each month to make sure batteries and pads and everything is up to date. But we also want to make sure we're prepared for those after-school activities, our care after-school activities. So that's going to happen throughout the school district during the month of February. Our third vision statements, we will provide consistent communication and promote dialogue with our community. So just want to point out that this fall we mailed 2 community newsletters to all Worthington residents. So everybody received those in the mail. In addition to mailing our very popular Treasurer's popular annual financial report. This week, we expect our district quality profile to go to the printer. And so in just a week or two, all district residents will receive that quality profile in the mail. And it's something we hope that everybody will, again, review. And then finally, our fourth vision statement is that we will be responsible and transparent with our community's resources. So we just want to update that we're working hard to complete the design process for rebuilding Thomas Worthington High School and for renovating Worthington Kilbourne High School. That's obviously phase 2 of our master facility plan. The Thomas site, as you know, is just very complicated due to keeping our existing gyms, existing athletic fields, the community pool, the large portion of the site that's in a floodplain, the existing curb cuts on 161, the MAC, the McConnell Art Center on that site, Evening Street Elementary, attempting to preserve the front lawn, and it's also in the City of Worthington's Architectural Review District, which requires an approval process and an opportunity for additional feedback from community members. So our team has presented plans to the Architectural Review Board on January 12th and again on January 26th. They will be back in front of that board on February 23rd and again likely on March 9th. I just want to point out that those meetings are open to the public. They're also videotaped and they can be found on the City of Worthington's website, again under ARB. So if residents are curious as to the evolution of that project and how it continues to change and be updated, we would encourage that residents go to those ARB, either attend in person or go back and just watch those videos because they're excellent. So, and then just as a reminder to the board, we are at our next board meeting, so that February, I think 27th board meeting, we will hear a presentation from our special education department, our special education program in Worthington. And then each of us as a board and superintendent and treasurer have committed to reading the book Demystifying Disability. So as a reminder, we'll each have 1 minute at the next meeting to share a learning or something that book reinforced for us. So with that, Mr. President, I'm happy to take questions or comments or defer my time to our treasurer's report.
Okay, I would like to provide an opportunity for any board member who wishes to comment or ask questions. I think this is the appropriate time to do it.
Just, you mentioned the Architectural Review Board. They do live stream those as well?
Yes, thank you.
I watched that live, so you have that option to watch it live if you can't attend in person. But I really appreciate the review of the CPR, the hands-free CPR, and just in those, that reminder of that the AEDs are in the buildings and knowing where they are, because in a panic situation, sometimes you don't have that review over and over to remember where those things are that, that time can be costly. So I appreciate you arranging that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate having the report. So the AEDs, when I first got on board, we had none, and we slowly started getting them. They're in every building, correct? And what about the athletic fields?
So
there's more than just in the buildings, correct?
Yeah, so the high schools have 4 AEDs. Each of our high schools do. Middle schools have a couple, one down by the gym, one by the front office. Elementary schools, usually around that front office area. All of our school facilities, if you walk out and turn right here, you'll see the AED as you come out through them. So obviously our athletic trainers are also equipped, right? So we partner with Ohio Health for our athletic training. So when athletes are down on a field, that part is available for them. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I want to say also, I thank you very much for a very, very thorough and good report on 4 very important topics. And I think this is going to be a very good experiment, but I think it's good for the board to hear this, for the community to hear it, and for us to have an opportunity to react to it. So at this time, Mr. Cusack, Treasurer's Report.
Yes, thank you. 2 items for the first ever Treasurer's Report tonight. The first is an update on our bond issue from last fall. As we briefly talked about last meeting, we achieved a very favorable rating on our upcoming issue, and now we're scheduled to price and sell those bonds next Thursday, February 23rd. If all goes as planned, we will then close and have those proceeds in our bank account around March 30th. So overall, I would say that since the election, the market has improved in our favor. So rates have came down, and I'm fairly confident that we'll be able to issue all $234 million and meet our one additional mill pledge, provided things over the next 10 days go smoothly. That they moved in our favor, and then a favorable jobs report came out last week, and so rates kind of went back the other way because the market digested the jobs report as an indicator that inflation maybe is not under control and that the Fed might continue to raise rates longer and faster than what they seem. I'm not one to ever wish time away, but I am looking forward to February 23rd when we can get there, and hoping for a smooth sailing ship until then. I did want to briefly bring up a topic that we haven't discussed much in 20 years. That's what we call arbitrage. So arbitrage is this concept where we issue debt and invest those proceeds and basically make more money, make a higher return than the rate that we're paying on the interest, right? And so as a tax-exempt entity, the IRS does not allow that to happen. So what happens is if you make too much and you exceed arbitrage, you have to rebate that back to the federal government. It typically, you typically don't see it because we invest this money in a very short window. When we have construction, that money's gone in 3 years, and you pay that debt back over 30 years, which is usually a higher rate. Well, we have this market anomaly called an inverted interest yield curve. So short-term rates are approaching 5%. So we'll be able to invest that money March 30th, even though we have an aggressive draw schedule because we're well ahead of where most districts would be at this point in the process. We'll have shovels in the ground in May and June, but we will have a time period where we'll invest that and hopefully maximize those returns. So I only bring all this up just to say that if we do hit arbitrage, which we'll monitor, it usually gets a negative connotation, but if you think about it, it just means that we've met and exceeded the allowable interest earnings, and then we have to rebate that back to the federal government. So that's where we're at with the bond issue. The other thing that came out last week was the governor released his proposed state budget. So Ohio implements a biennial budget. That's a 2-year budget, different from what we do every year. They issue a 2-year budget. The governor proposed his budget. That's the first step in the process, and some good things in that budget. It continued phasing in the Fair School Funding Plan for the next 2 years on schedule. However, it did include a significant expansion of Ed Choice voucher income eligibility from 250% to 400% of the poverty level, which data that I read shows that would make the majorities of families eligible in Ohio for the voucher. However, under the proposal of the governor, the district would still have to put on the designated school list for meeting failing criteria, which we are not on at this time. So that is less concerning than what the Senate introduced, which is basically Senate Bill 11 is a voucher for all students in grades K through 12. So that independent of our academic scores. This is a long process. I learned a long time ago when Governor Strickland, when I first took this job 17 years ago, and I learned everything about the governor's proposed budget, and when we got to the end, it was nothing very much like that. So I've learned to just let it play out. The Senate will come with a reconciliation process, the House will, and then usually we'll learn June 29th or 30th what the budget is. But overall, it appeared that the governor's budget was good for education. That's it.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments or reactions by the board? Jennifer.
I'll just say thank you for the best treasurer update we've ever had. And good luck next Thursday, the 23rd. We'll be thinking you and Trent go.
Yeah, I think Angie and Randy are going.
Okay, great. So good luck to all of you, and we'll be anxious to hear how it goes.
Thank you.
Kelly? Okay, and I want to repeat Jennifer's, thank you for both of you for the best report you either have given. You both set very high bars. You're not always going to meet those, I don't think, but that's fine. I just think the process is is a good one for our community and for our board. So, no, the arbitrage is always an interesting thing, but as a governmental entity, we're not allowed to borrow at one rate and invest at a higher rate. But thank you. All right. Now it's time for the board. Any board committee reports or announcements?
I'll go. Communication committee met with the key communicators the last Thursday in January, and I just want to thank all the administrators that are always there. I know the community members really appreciate so many administrators there that they can talk to. They got details on Thomas Worthington and the proposed plans and Kilbourne, and we mentioned the naming rights policy. Angie started talking about the portrait of a learner with them, so that information is getting out there. We had some graduation requirement updates, and it was just a fact-filled meeting, so thank you everyone for that. And that is my only committee meeting I had.
Okay, thank you very much. Kelly.
I didn't have any committee meetings, but I do have some things coming up. I meet with Angie and her team with the CLC. Charlie and I do on Wednesday. So they'll be talking about special education. They're going to talk about the social studies curriculum update and the portrait of a graduate. So that's always a good meeting. And we're having pizza. Then Thursday I go to the PTA council meeting. This will be my first one that I've attended, so I'm excited about doing that. And then Friday morning I meet with the diversity club at Thomas. I was invited to speak to the students there. And then in the afternoon, Jennifer and I have a presentation at Perry with some 6th grade students about how their voice matters and how to be agents of change. So it's a really full week of exciting things though. So I'll have a lot to report when I come back. Make time.
Thank you very much. I have a few things, and then I'll do a legislative report and try not to repeat anything that our treasurer said. But first of all, I attended the January 24th OSBA get-together with State Superintendent Stephanie Siddons, and again, that was online. It was virtual, but and it's free. They're doing OSBA is doing quite a few free things online. You're usually a half an hour or 15 minutes or 45 minutes. So I would recommend you look that out, see if it works in your schedule, if it interests you. But it was very interesting to hear from our interim state superintendent, Stephanie Siddons.
Okay, they kind of changed the time after it was set. I had the wrong time on the calendar.
Okay.
I logged in and it had 5 minutes left.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it was 11 o'clock. It was on a Tuesday, as I recall, January 24th. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. No, it didn't last very long.
No.
Secondly, as you may know, Kim Miller-Smith, or Miller-Smith, I believe, the OSBA Central Regional Manager has resigned from that position. She's going to be doing student achievement still with OSBA. She hasn't, but so right now we have an interim, or actually co-interim regional managers until they hired another. I thought Kim was an outstanding regional manager, and she had appeared at this meeting a number of times. I thought she was outstanding. I think it's going to be a real loss. Hopefully we'll find one as good. I think it would be very difficult to find one better, but one as good. And I'm on that interview committee, so I guess if we don't find one as good, you can blame me. February 2nd was Groundhog Day, and once again, as he does every year, Dr. Bowers did even better. I did like that format better, but I really thought Dr. Bowers did a really good job, and I was proud that I was a school board member because I thought our representative did a fabulous job. I won't get into comparisons, but I thought they did a fabulous job. On February 3rd, as you all know, we had our work session, discussed a number of things, hope to discuss some more and make some changes as we go along here. May 12th is our scheduled next board work session. Again, the focus being just on governance type issues and agenda issues and how to make and no doubt handbook issues as well. Then again, February 7th, OSBA had a free, this was at 8 o'clock in the morning, there a workshop on the art and science of appreciation. That was, again, well worth the money since it didn't cost a penny. And I thought well worth the time because it wasn't very long, but I thought it was. So they've got another one coming, or they've got a coffee chat coming up February 21st. Something for you to look at. Then just this past Saturday, I went to the OSBA Board Officer 201 workshop, and I'll try to keep it very brief on that. And I think, I guess I do want to mention one other thing is the Black Film series at the McConnell Arts Center that Kelly is involved in, and I believe others in the administration, our parents, and are involved in. And my wife and I greatly enjoyed the film and interacting with people last Sunday, and it's free. The price was right again. I guess detect a trend here. I do like free things. And then they got another one, I think, Black Panther on the 19th, and we're going to go back for that as well. And then Worthington Kilbourne has Little Mermaid, their musical, coming up on the 24th and 25th, I believe. And then, been asked about this by a couple people, the voucher lawsuit, right before, I don't think I've commented on this in the board meeting, but the Judge Page denied the state's motions to dismiss the lawsuit. They're in the middle of discovery now, and the trial is tentatively scheduled for spring of 2024 on the state's vouchers. But they're going to do a year of discovery, and then there'll be summary judgment motions that then have to be decided one way or the other. Assuming it's not decided by summary judgment, then there will be a trial at that time. I'm going to give a brief, I'll try to keep it very brief, a synopsis of the board officer workshop, but also there's a lot there I think we can talk about at our work session as well. But one thing that hit me hard that was mentioned at that was that 90% of Ohio students are in our public school system, but almost 20% of the state's investment in K-12 education goes to students who are not in our public school system. I kind of knew the numbers, but that hit me kind of hard, that situation. I'll try to keep this very short. I have a lot here, but with respect to the board officer workshop, the focus was basically on what high-performing boards do. Their point was, and we'll discuss this at our May work session, I think, they always have a strategic plan. They continuously do board self-assessment. They make sure all evaluations align with district goals. They agree on performance objectives, and I think critically important is they never ignore a problem, because problems don't go away. If they're ignored, they just get bigger. One thing they said, and I didn't follow up, but I will follow up, is that every board should have a protocol document that is discussed and modified annually. I don't know what a protocol document is, and I don't know that we have one, but I'll follow up on that. There are a number of things here that I'll take up at a different time, but there are several things that I took away that I thought were really important. Is that boards should always be laser focused in their communications with the public, with the why of what we're doing or the why of what the district is doing. A heavy emphasis on the why rather than the what. There's sometimes a tendency to focus on what we're doing, but not why we're doing it. They were big on, and I'd like to get there. We'll discuss that at our work session, discussing at least one different topic at every board meeting, and always work on at least one or two items at each meeting, because in their view, no meeting should just be a rubber stamp meeting. All meetings should be substantively meaningful. And then quite a bit of discussion about meeting with state representatives and state senators. I'll get into that. And then finally, there was a very lengthy presentation on ethics laws for school districts. And actually, I boiled it down to one sentence, but it was, which is basically that all compensation, benefits, and gifts of school employees should come from the district, not from others. And they do recommend a board policy on gifts for school employees. which apparently I didn't know that the number of school districts apparently have. And then finally, again, I like freebies, and as part of our dues that's paid for, at any time, any board member or administrator can, as part of our dues, call the legal hotline at any time with any legal question, because it's included in our board membership, and that number is 855-OSBA law, and if anybody wants to know that. I personally have never called it, but they were pushing it. I don't even know how long they've had it. I don't recall reference to it before, but it's free, and I like free, so something to think about. Yeah.
I've just called Jennifer Harden like on my own, emailed her and called her, and we were never charged a fee for that.
Right.
She's given me a little.
Yeah, I don't know if this
advice.
is to avoid that.
It was so easy.
But they claim that legal hotline, again, they don't promise somebody will definitely answer at that time, but it's 24/7, there's somebody assigned to monitor it. I think you leave a message but they suppose they get back, even over weekends, holidays, they said they'll get back to you. I wasn't aware of it.
Never knew, me either.
Okay, but if you've got a legal question, it beats paying. I've called it. You've called it, all right, thank you.
Okay, you knew.
Good. All right, you know about it, okay. I think I just didn't know about it, but they were really encouraging us to do it. And any board member or any employee can do it, they said. If we overwhelm them, they might hide it again, but anyway, it's not great. Okay, with respect to so that's my update on the workshop. I thought it was an excellent one, and I would encourage next year's president and vice president, to be honest with you, to go. At least if it's the same format. I thought it was well worth my time. And a quick legislative update. First of all, nobody in the Senate Republican leadership is from Central Ohio. The Senate Democratic leadership does include Herschel Craig in the #2 leadership position. He's from Columbus. It doesn't cover our district. There's nobody in the House Republican leadership from Central Ohio, but the House Democratic leadership does include 2 from Central Ohio in the top 2 Ohio leadership positions. Allison Russo is the minority leader, and she's from Upper Arlington, and Representative Dontavius Geralds is from Columbus. He's the assistant minority leader, the #2 position. On the Senate Ed Committee, though, we do have some representation from Central Ohio. The chair is Andrew Brenner from Delaware, just north of us. In fact, I didn't look at the most recent. There have been so many maps, but at one point, some of his district actually covered a little bit of our.
I think it covers the very north of my neighborhood area.
Okay, yeah. So he is the chair. Once again, he was chair last year, chair of the last General Assembly. He was chair. He's again chair of the Senate Ed Committee, and we think about whether we want to have him and or some other legislators to come. Again, that was one of the things they were pushing, was meet with any folks, anybody that will meet with you, frankly, because they need to hear our side. The ranking member from the Senate Education Committee is actually a former Ohio School Board Association president, Catherine Ingram. She's from Cincinnati, so she's not from our area, but I think that's helpful that somebody who's actually been a board member for a long time. Senator Michelle Reynolds, Republican from Canal Winchester, is also in the Senate Ed Committee. And then on the Senate Finance Committee, which deals with a lot of things that TJ was talking, or will deal, or has dealt, there are 10 Republicans on that, 3 Democrats, again from Central Ohio, only Andrew Brenner from, Senator Brenner from Delaware, but we also have Democratic Representative Herschel Craig is on the Senate Finance Committee. On the Senate Ways and Means Committee, it's a small committee with 4 Republicans and 1 Democrat. The only person from Central Ohio, if you call that, is Tim Schaefer, the Republican from Lancaster, is on the Senate Ways and Means Committee. Going to the House, the House Education Committee has 10 Republicans, 5 Democrats. The only Central Ohio one is the Democrat Mary Lightbody from Westerville, neighboring school district. So again, doesn't cover our district, but it's an adjoining district, and I wouldn't mind our meeting with her at least once. But the chair, from Central Ohio, the chair is Adam Bird, a Republican from New Richmond. He is a former superintendent. And the vice chair is a Republican from Ashtabula. Sarah Fowler is a former state board of education. So it's, in my opinion, good to have at least somehow education committee members who know something about public education. The House Finance Committee, which will cover a lot of the things again that TJ was talking about, includes our own Beth Liston. I think we should definitely, she covers much of our district. We should definitely meet with her, I think, and again, Representative Dontavius Geralds, as well as Adam Miller from Columbus. So there are 3 from Central Ohio, all Democrats. On the Ways and Means Committee, there's nobody from Central Ohio. On the House Finance Subcommittee on Primary and Secondary Education, the House, unlike the Senate, actually has a subcommittee of their Finance Committee that deals with education. The Senate doesn't do that, but it includes Republican David Dobos, who was on the Columbus, who represents a big part of Columbus, who was on the Columbus School Board for 8 years. And again, I wouldn't mind having him come, although he's familiar, but for him to hear from us and us to hear from him, I mean, a two-way conversation. Okay, real quickly, TJ already spoke about it. We got Senate Bill 1, which basically would take away virtually all power away from the State Board of Education and put education as a cabinet position under the exclusive control of the governor. And my concern about it, and the concern of a number of other people, is that it splits the bill as currently drafted splits pre-kindergarten through grade 12, pre-K through 12, and career technical education into 2 different divisions under the governor. As opposed, I think they're very, to me, that reflects a huge lack of understanding of the role of K-12 education in career technical education. At least speaking for myself, and I think for a number of education folks, that's a bad idea. The OSBA's legislative platform strongly opposes this, basically, evisceration of the State Board of Education. So OSBA strongly opposes Senate Bill 1 and testified against it in the last General Assembly, or the similar, not Senate Bill 1, but unfortunately, in my opinion at least, BASA and OASBO have refused to take a position on Senate Bill 1, so they will either testify for it or against it, but the Dublin superintendent has testified in Senate Bill 1 already. Mr. Cusick referred to Senate Bill 11. That's and I think it's important to keep everything clear as to what things are. It is not the backpack bill, which also was introduced last. It's not the backpack bill, but it is a universal voucher bill. And it would make, as Mr. Cusick said, make all K through 12 students eligible for a voucher beginning in just 8 months. As currently drafted, it would begin in August of 2023. Then there is Senate Bill 4, which would allow schools to hire veterans as teachers, even without a high school diploma or a college degree, or any training in K-12 pedagogy whatsoever. And it allows non-veterans to be teachers after completing 60 college credits, again, with not necessarily any, or without any K-12 pedagogy training. Let's see, there's a number of other bills pending in the Senate. There are no House bills, however, because of infighting among Republicans in the House over who is the House Republican leader. They're unable to drop bills right now, and the reason is because the House leadership determines the House number, and the first 10 bills are always the priority, and they can't do that until they decide who the leader is. Is it the Speaker, or is it the person who got the most votes in the House caucus? So that doesn't bode well, in my opinion, for the state of Ohio if they can't, because there's a lawsuit already pending too. So anyway, now in the budget, again, very quickly, it does continue the implementation of the Fair School Funding Formula. I think that's helpful, but it does increase eligibility for vouchers, as according to what I've read. It would make about 90% of the public high school students' families would be eligible under the 400% requirement. It does provide for substantial investments for career technical education, which I consider a positive. It continues funding for tutoring, and It has additional funding to train high school teachers to teach college credit plus classes, but it also very substantially increases spending on charter, or proposes substantially increasing spending on charter schools, as well as that increase in vouchers. As Mr. Cusick said, I'll keep this real close here. House hearings should begin soon, with the House voting probably and hopefully in late April, or that's the norm. They'll be voting on the governor's biennial budget proposal. Then the Senate will begin their hearings after the House passes its bill, so it's done by the House first, and then the Senate, with votes coming in late May or early June if they stay on their normal schedule. Then is the big one that Mr. Cusick was, here goes the conference committee. And there you have 4 Republicans and 2 Democrats in closed session, no public, who will determine what the final budget will be, and then it usually goes to the floor without time enough for anybody to read it or look at it. And we're up at, usually I guess the deadline, June 29th. If they don't pass it by June 30th, then it's not signed by then, probably, which has happened in the past of the government shutting down. Then the final one is the final thing is the OSBA's legislative platform resolutions are due by May 31st. So we have a little bit of time, but we should discuss at some point in time whether we want to propose any legislative platform resolutions to the OSBA. Sorry for the long one, but a lot has occurred with respect to legislation. So unless you've had any questions, comments, concerns, that's all for board committee reports and announcements. We now move on to approval of routine financial items, actions recommended by the treasurer, and it's the treasurer's recommendation that we approve items E2 and E3. E2, the numbering here is a little different on my printout than it is on the website, but let's see, I guess no, it is right. E2 is the approval of our minutes from our February 13th meeting and from our February 3rd work session and our January 23rd meeting. And but we're combining the motions here, attempts to save time. We also had the appropriations modifications in E3. So unless somebody wants to break those in two, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our last 2 meetings. That's the January 23rd and February 3rd meeting, and the appropriations modifications as set forth in item E3 on our agenda. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions, or Mr. Cusick, anything you want to say? It's a grand total of $940 in the appropriations.
There were they were quite numerous, but they all netted out, ironically. But
all right. No questions, no comments. Would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Okay, at this time, we're ready for the consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent. Mr. Bowers, Dr. Bowers.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda. That is items F2 all the way through F10. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of the consent agenda means that all items listed under the consent agenda are adopted by one single motion, unless a member of the board or the superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted upon separately. So again, the recommendation is items F2 through F10, please.
May I have a motion to approve items F2 through F10, approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the consent agenda. Any comments, questions? If not, Mr. Cusick, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. Yeah, okay. Motion passes. Consent agenda or consent items have been passed. Now we're ready for new business. Dr. Bowers.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve item G1, which is the acceptance of the donations that are listed on the agenda. Item G1, acceptance of donations, please.
May I have a motion to approve the acceptance of donations?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve that we accept the donations that are listed on the agenda. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, Mr. Cusick, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes. All right, the next recommendation, Dr. Bowers.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve item G2. Item G2 is a resolution to contract with EMOD LLC for work at Thomas Worthington High School. Specifically, this is a resolution for us to lease modular classrooms, 12 modular classrooms that will sit behind Thomas Worthington High School to allow for construction to occur in the front part of the building and continue education through that construction process. So that's item G2, please.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve item G2?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve item G2 with respect to these temporary modulars. Any questions or comments?
I just have a question. So with the modulars, do you have like a time frame? Is it just like you know that you will need modulars and then the details will come later?
Yeah, details are going to come later, 12 to 24 months. So depending on how that construction goes. If you think about the first phase of Thomas Worthington High School, it's in the front of the building, and it will span the length of the new building. What that does is it actually cuts in, if you're familiar with the building, to where the library is. We have an interior library surrounding the library. We have special education classrooms, foreign language classrooms, and upstairs we have business classrooms. Those classrooms will go offline in the original demolition, so you can build that new phase of classrooms. Therefore, we need to replace like classroom space so students continue to be educated during that period of time.
Do you know where the modulars will be located?
Yeah, so they're scheduled to be located behind Thomas Worthington High School. In that space, there is some green space behind the school and some parking lot behind the school. So that would be with directions here at the top of my head, the northeast section. So back by our maintenance facility, if you think about that area on the Evening Street side.
That's all the questions I have.
No questions.
Okay, I've been asked to ask 4 questions, 2 of which I believe we've already answered. But the first one is the board is being asked to approve $1 million towards the overall projects for phase 2. Person would like an explanation as to how the modulars costs fit in with the anticipated overall project costs for all of phase 2. Can you or somebody else?
Yeah, so Charlie, I don't have project costs in front of me and didn't know this question was coming, so I don't want to speak inaccurately about those exact costs.
Okay, I thought you, okay. See how long the modulars will be in use. I think by students and staff, I believe you said up to 24 months. And where they will be located, they're near Evening Street. And then the final question was, have all logistics, including city approvals, been completed?
City approvals have not been completed. We've had conversations with the cities. They know they're coming, but they have not been yet completed.
Okay.
And let me just say, as you guys know, on this project, we are attempting to move quickly because of cost escalation process, right? And so we need to order modulars now, so they're in place to start school in August. We know that if things are shovel ready this summer, that a year of cost escalation that's projected saves the community a significant amount of money. But because of that, we are moving really quickly. And again, as I mentioned in my update, the Worthington City process isn't designed to move quickly. They've been extremely good partners with us, but it's not designed to be a quick process. And therefore, we are taking some leaps of faith that we will all be able to come together here to make sure that these projects are ready to start this summer.
Speaking only for myself, given increasing inflation and construction costs, and with Intel coming in, I personally think it should be full speed ahead as fast as we can do it, because I think in the long run it's going to save our taxpayers a lot of money. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not good at forecasting the future. I could be wrong, but based on what I know right now, full speed ahead, consistent with all legal requirements, is what we should be doing.
Yeah, and I didn't want to interrupt here, but I did have a conversation with our architect, Tony Shore, regarding the budget, and we looked at the soft cost allocation and felt like there was adequate funds in there in that soft cost budget for these modulars.
And as I understand it, we need approximately 12 classrooms during construction at Thomas Worthington, and there's no place for them except, or the most feasible place for them certainly would be in these temporary modules.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been working with our high school principals at both high schools, and at Thomas Worthington specifically, Principal Pete Scully, Assistant Principal Emily Greenwald have been at the WEC every week in meetings for 4 months maybe, and continue to show up every Wednesday for 3 hours. So those conversations have really been driven on what's our room utilization, where can staff members move to, but what's really going to be necessary to make sure that we provide the experience we want to provide for our students. And so we know construction is going to be disruptive. We've known that throughout the process, but it's important that learning continues on that site, because this group of students, this is their opportunity, right? And so this is part of that process. So.
Yeah, and again, I guess just to repeat what what we've been told, and our community facilities task force recommended, this is not a situation of swing sites or where we are constructing and then we're going to tear down. We are tearing down actual classrooms while they're being used with no place to put them. And while I don't like the cost of these modulars, there is no other solution, feasible solution, at least in my mind. There's certainly no other cheaper one that keeps our school intact, essentially. Any other comments, questions? All right, I think we're ready to vote. Mr. Cusick, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to recommend the Board of Education approve item G3. Item G3 is another resolution. This resolution is to approve an easement and right-of-way for the Worthington School District, that's us, located at 300, that's us, with the Ohio Power Company. So we're creating an easement for the Ohio Power Company to move some lines, power lines around the Fieldhouse project at Thomas Worthington. So that's what this is allowing. So item G3, please.
All right. May I have a motion to approve the resolution that was attached to our agenda authorizing membership in OHSAA during 2023.
Hold on, we need to vote on this one first. Sorry, on G3.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're talking about the easement, which is also with AEP, which is in our agenda and attachment. Any questions or comments? Or first, I guess before that, we need a motion.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
All right, got a motion now to approve a resolution to approve the easement that is attached to our agenda. Any questions, comments, discussion? All right, Mr. Cusick, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Now we're ready for
Yes.
Ohio High School Association. Dr. Barris.
Yes, I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve item G4. G4 is an annual resolution that authorizes membership for next school year in the Ohio High School Athletic Association. We do have to pass this for our teams to be able to compete in the Ohio High School Athletic Association, which is really the only way to compete in the state of Ohio. So we would ask for your approval.
Do we have a motion to approve the resolution ensuring that our students can compete in the Ohio High School Athletic Association events
So moved.
Following school year, the
That's
2020. All right. Got a motion. Second, any comments or questions? If not, Mr. Cusick, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes. Okay, at this time, we're ready for any requests, questions, concerns from the school board. Nothing? I just want to, well, first of all, say I don't think it would be very prudent for us not to approve that last resolution with respect to competing with High School Athletic Association. But secondly, I want to underscore what Dr. Bowers mentioned in his report, which is making sure we read the book. It's a short book, Demystifying Disability, and we get 1 minute to say whatever you want to say about it, but what stood out to you. So
You're going to time us, TJ.
Yeah, Kelly.
I do have one. I just want to say, Dr. Gupta, I just want to say congratulations to you again for your selection to Oakwood schools. They're just so lucky to have you, and we will miss you dearly, but I'm really excited for you. And so I just wanted to publicly congratulate you on your new role as superintendent there. So congratulations.
For sure. Congratulations. I had a great conversation with one of the board members there, and they're so excited to have you. But we'll miss you.
Yeah, Kelly and Jennifer beat me to my next item and last item, unfortunately. But yeah, I had a great conversation with the board president, and he was totally excited about that. And my view, as I told him, that we really, really, really don't want to lose you, and I told him I'd be very, very sad if you hire him. But number one, Mr. Gupta is ready and will be a fabulous superintendent. And secondly, we see it as a real feather in our cap to have great administrators from our district going off to other districts. And we've got a number of those around, and you hate to lose anybody, but we want folks who, if they're so interested and so inclined, to move on. It's a part of virtually any industry, frankly, but certainly in education. And so, while very sad you're leaving, congratulations. And I think they're very, as I told him, very, very lucky to get him, that there aren't any other Neil Guptas out there, and I meant that in a positive way, that you're getting a very special and unique administrator and superintendent.
So Charlie, there are not any other Neil Guptas out there.
That's what I told him.
Let me just say this. We are super happy for Dr. Gupta. We appreciate his service to Worthington. We will officially act on his resignation in one of our next couple board meetings. From a community standpoint, again, we couldn't be happier for Neil's next step. Neil will be with us for the rest of this school year. So when people are trying to determine who our director of secondary ed, that is Neil. One of the things that I appreciate about Dr. Gupta is, even though he's been on this personal journey and working with Oakwood, honestly, last week while he had all that going on and into this week, he has worked just as hard for Worthington as he always has. And that speaks an incredible amount to his character. And so we expect to see him at 7 tomorrow morning, just like normal. And I know that'll be the case. So, but he will be here with us for the rest of the year, but we are excited for Neil.
I did warn him that I was going to utilize all the resources that he has, so I can get it all, keep it all in until the end of the year, until he leaves. Yeah.
I just have to say one more thing. I mean, this is the time to do it, I think. As I told the board president when he asked me, I saw Neil in action before the pandemic at a Teach to Lead U.S. Department of Education session out at the hotel by the airport or something. And he was a rock star. I mean, they were, for some, either the scheduling was off, he was a little bit late, but I don't think it was your fault. I think they changed the schedule or something. But people, where is Dr. Gupta? Where's Dr. Gupta? And they hung on every word. It was incredibly gratifying. I would have been telling everybody, he's an administrator in my district. I'm from Worthington. So I can't thank you enough. And I told the board president that they'll have the same reaction once you become their superintendent. So we have high expectations for you, but I have no doubt you will surpass them. Anyone else? Okay. At this,
Neil, I love you.
or well, I'm sorry, but I have to. I don't. After the Super Bowl last night, Andy Reid, the coach, said to one of the announcers, "I love you, but I'm not going to give you a kiss here." So anyway. We now need a motion to enter into executive session.
Calendar first. Calendar.
Oh, thank you. How did I miss that? Calendar. Okay. Yep. So, as Dr. Bowers has already said, our next meeting, February 27th, will be the much anticipated and look forward to, and no doubt great special education update. Looking forward to that. And then we've got a regular board meeting on March 13th. And then I want to bring to everybody's attention on March 27th to accommodate one, which I think was a totally appropriate thing to do, to accommodate a board member schedule. We will be meeting at 7:30 on March 27th rather than 6:30. I'll try to remember to repeat that again 2 more times at least. But and actually the next 3 meetings starting on March 27th will be at 7:30. Then we'll go back to our 6:30. Meeting times, all as approved by the at the organizational meeting back in January. Okay, any questions or concerns about the calendar? All right, at this time I'd entertain a motion to enter into executive session to prepare for, conduct, or review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we go into executive session. That is not a debatable motion. So would you please call the roll, Mr. Cusick?
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
And just to let everyone know, we will come out of executive session to adjourn the meeting, but we will conduct absolutely no business after the executive session. We will have to come out of it to adjourn the meeting, but there will be no further business conducted by us. Thank you very much for attending.